Welcome everyone to week number 4 in Science 200. We're almost at our midpoint. At the end of this week, we will be at the midpoint in the term. This is a very important week for your topic. So let's see what we've got going on. Last week, you found good scientific sources to help you gain information and data, hopefully, about your particular topic. You talked in your discussion board postings about your difficulties in doing this, the challenges that you faced in order to find science sources on your topic. And I can bet that you found other students, other classmates that had these similar sorts of situations, everything from understanding the jargon to figuring out the keywords to use in order to narrow down the scope of your search. There's so many issues finding credible sources, etc. So these are all things that we all have to deal with if we're finding credible information about any sort of topic, but especially in science. So you spent your time on your discussion board postings and doing those searches and doing work in your textbook. This week, read Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is all about communication to an audience that you have chosen or that you are presenting to. This is tremendously important. You have to figure out who your audience is in order to determine how it is you're going to communicate your information to them. You have to know what they already know. You have to know what their point of view is. You have to know what possible questions they may raise about your topic. So this is a very important week. You're also going to learn about different levels of scientific communication. So the primary way that science is communicated within the scientific community is through journal articles. A journal is basically what you think of as a magazine, but there are specific of these science magazines or science journals that scientists publish in. You send in your work after you've written it up according to the instructions for that particular journal, and then you get feedback. And the feedback is, yes, we will accept this exactly like it is. That hardly ever happens. No, we will not accept it under any circumstances. And usually you get the third choice. And the third choice is, we are provisionally accepting this as long as you make these specific changes. And so that's usually what happens. And you go through the process where you make the changes, send that back in. The editors look it over and make sure you have made the specific changes asked for, and then you will be published. And so then your work is out there for all the rest of the scientific community to read and evaluate. And they do. So you've got primary journals that the actual science is published in. Then you have review articles. And a review article is where a scientist in a particular discipline takes a look at all the information from lots of different sources and puts those together to make a comprehensive article about this particular topic. So these are great to find and to use because there's tons of information in them. You know that a scientist has evaluated all of this, and there are so many references here that you can also use. Remember to always look at the end of an article and see if there's any of those references listed that you could use. So review articles are awesome. They're also a lot easier to read than just a regular journal article. And then we go all the way down to news articles. Then we have things in between, like citizen scientist magazines, like Scientific American, things like that. But you go all the way down to news articles, which have a totally different point of view when they are talking about science. So read about that in Chapter 4. Check your feedback on your questions from week number 2. Because you have a big assignment due this week. This is your rough draft, and so you have to add quite a bit of information. In week 1, you made your introduction. You wrote your introduction and you showed the significance of your topic. Go back and read that feedback too, because some of you need to fix that. If you just start off talking about GMOs and how they can be harmful to your health, your audience may not know what a GMO is or how it's made or why it's made. And so you have to explain all of that. So the introduction, the significance, and then in week 2, you came up with a question, and you're going to move further past that now because you found your sources, and you're going to add even more to your rough draft than that. You're going to figure out who your audience is and what are your natural principles. And you're going to discuss your sources. So I'll get to that in just a minute because I'm going to show you the guidelines. No discussion board postings for this week, for week 4 or week 5. You have discussion board postings again in week 6. All right, here are the guidelines for this week's assignment. This is a pretty big assignment. And this is what your basic paper is based on, this week 4 assignment. So notice anything that looks familiar? Introduction. Please label your paper according to this outline. So Roman numeral 1, introduction, write that on there so that I know what you're calling your introduction. Describe the issue. Like I was saying about GMOs, you can't just jump into the topic and talk about how GMOs can harm you. You really have to give the background information. If you're talking about ocean acidification, then you need to explain what that is. It's a lowering of the pH of ocean water, and what is it caused by, and what are the possible effects of this. Also, why is it significant, this particular topic? Why should anybody care about this? If you don't explain to your audience why they should care, they won't. Especially if it's not a topic that they've already been interested in. So make sure you discuss the significance. Now, I want to emphasize some words in this set of guidelines. Describe the issue. All right? This is not just one sentence. This is a paragraph. And remember, when you took an English class, a paragraph is 3 sentences or more. So you have to fully describe your topic, and you also have to explain the significance of this particular topic and why it's important for everybody to know something about this. And then the next section, section number 1-2, describe your 3 science resources. All right. You have to tell me what you learned from this source. There are lots of questions here, right? And I get that. What are your similarities, differences in the content of your sources? What makes them appropriate? All that. Okay, that's okay. You can answer those, and that's good. But the most important thing to describe is what you learned from each of these sources. This is sort of a synopsis of whatever this article was that you read, because you're going to use this information in your presentation at the end of the term. So describe your 3 science sources. All right, and then section 1-3, you're going to develop a specific question, and you already did that in week number 2. Go back and read that feedback in case you need to modify anything. All right, so this is something that you want to know more about having to do with your particular topic. Then you get to the body of the paper, and you have not written any of this before. You're going to identify an audience. So you're going to decide, are you going to give this presentation that you're going to do at the end of the term to a group of kindergarten students, or are you going to give this to a group of climate change scientists, or a group of consumers, or the general public, or legislators, or, okay, so you got to pick your audience. Don't say everybody. You definitely don't want that audience because that will be nearly impossible to reach everybody in the audience. If you dumb it down too much and you got scientists in the crowd, they're going to be offended and they won't listen to a thing that you say. If you got a bunch of legislators and they don't understand your terminology that you're using, they'll tune you out too. If you're talking over the heads of a bunch of kindergarten kids, they're not going to pay attention. So identify your audience, and then you're going to describe how it is that you're going to reach that audience. What are your strategies for communicating your information to this audience? It's very important in this section, notice this, to give specific examples. You might discuss a term that you've come across that you didn't know what it meant, and so you had to look it up, and this is how you're going to describe it to your audience. So give specific examples. All right, and then the last two sections here, identify the natural science principles surrounding your topic. So if you're talking about ocean acidification, for example, you definitely want to talk about the carbon cycle of the earth and how carbon dioxide moves up into the air when we burn fossil fuels, and then that carbon dioxide, which is a very tiny gas molecule, diffuses into the ocean water, and then that changes the pH of the ocean, and then more CO2 is made by plants and anything that does photosynthesis, plus the burning of fossil fuels. So that's why it's called a carbon cycle. So that's important. If you're looking at, let's see another one, biodiversity conservation. You might want to have evolution as one of your natural science principles, because evolution is a change in genes in a population over time. Does that happen in ecosystems? Absolutely, because no ecosystem stays the same. It's always changing. And so the species there also have to change, and that doesn't mean in their behavior. It can mean behavior, but usually it means in the survival of the offspring of any of the organisms, from plants to animals to fungi to whatever's there, bacterial species, whatever. So you might want to include evolution. Now, you may get stuck here because you may not have a clue as to what any natural science principles are that have to do with your topic. That's what I'm here for. Ask me questions. I guarantee I could come up with a bazillion for you that you can choose from. You want to include at least one, but if it were me, I would have 2 or 3 of these natural science principles. Explain how the principle of principles applies to your particular issue. So if you're talking about the carbon cycle and CO2 moving through ecosystems, being expelled by those that do photosynthesis, and then when there's excessive carbon dioxide, you get that diffusion into the water, you're going to explain how that carbon dioxide changes the pH of the ocean water. All right, so you're going to connect your natural principles to your particular topic. Now, I've spent this much time on these guidelines to help you. I have underlined important words in this. Apply, identify, how are you going to get your message across, who's your audience, what's your question, describe your sources, describe your issue and why it's significant. Okay, so this is important. This is not just fill in the blank with a couple of words. This is all written out. And make sure you identify each of these sections so that I don't have to guess. This is not an English essay. Not an English essay. Science is always put into sections like this. This is how my mind works. And that's how people in science work. We're organized like this. So you need to organize your paper like this too. All right, and then finally, isn't this a very nice calm picture? It was a beautiful, beautiful day in Scotland. And my sister and I went for a walk outside and found this beautiful stream in the Scottish mountains right outside the hotel where we were staying. So anyway, tip of the week, ask if you need any help. That's why I'm here. Right? I'm here to help you. I know about this stuff. I can help you, I promise. All you have to do is ask. If you get stumped, ask me. I'll answer you within 24 hours. Sometimes it's within minutes. If I'm on the computer, I'll answer you right then. Sometimes I'm out doing stuff, but I will answer you as quickly as I can. So please do reach out if you have any trouble, especially with the natural sciences section. To make sure that you get that correctly. If not, then in week 5, you're going to be doing some revisions, which is okay. When in doubt, when you're struggling, when you need help, please reach out to me, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I am glad to help you. With that being said, I hope that you have a wonderful week number 4. I know in my area it's getting warm again. Thank goodness. It was so freezing cold this past week. It's going to get warm again, and so I'm excited about getting outside again. Have a great week number 4.